right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to CNBC's Outward Spotlight. I'm your host, Shibani Joshi. Today, we're going to talk about the many ways 5G is revolutionizing the workplace and the way that we work. And joining us for this conversation about the shifting mobile landscape is Mishka Dehghan. She's a vice president of strategy, product, and solutions for T-Mobile for Business. Before diving in, I want to remind you that this is an interactive session. We want to hear from you, and we will be taking your questions. If you have one, simply put your question into the chat session or the chat window on the right-hand side of your screen, and we'll get to as many questions as we can. And with that, let's kick things off with Mishka right now. Welcome, Mishka.
Thank you, Shibani. Hello, everybody. And Shibani, good to see you again, twice in the same year. This is wonderful to see you.
Yes, it is great to see you. And this topic is on the minds of every executive that I've been speaking to. We're trying to figure out what the workplace is going to look like, what the future of work is going to look like. Tell us what your experience has been, what you're seeing anecdotally about the workplace environment and how it's been impacted by COVID and other factors.
I think that nobody can deny the fact that, with the pandemic, we have all been seeing a complete shift in the way we work. And companies, across the country had to really find new ways of maintaining the productivity and the collaboration that happens within their workforce, making sure that the same levels of productivity are maintained for this workforce that's now shifted to working from home. So I think this is the big trend in terms of what we've seen in the way we work space. And many of the companies that we talk to and the business leaders there are really trying to find new ways to accommodate what has become this new normal, which, by the way, as if you believe any of the research that we see, and there have been a number of institutions that have really looked at the trends of what the future of work is going to look like beyond the pandemic. We're never going to go back to the structure that we had previously. And I think that the future is going to be a hybrid of what we had and what we are experiencing today.
Okay, so that's interesting. I mean, everyone is trying to make these predictions. And I know that you're talking to a lot of your customers about the future of work as it relates to working from home. So what do you think the breakout is going to be? Because I agree with you. I think everybody agrees that there's some level of working from home that's going to stay. But is there also going to be a traditional move back to the corporate work environment? What's the breakout going to look like?
I think that what we are hearing and what we are seeing is the knowledge workers are, which basically make up the majority of the workforce that are typically in an office environment. We see a shift where, when we come out of the pandemic, it is expected that we're never going to be in a traditional office environment, 5 days a week. And we are going to probably see a mix between time that we spend really at the office, where we work from home, or literally from anywhere. And we expect that post-COVID, we are going to see somewhere in the 10 to 15% increase in terms of the work from anywhere structure that existed across many corporations prior to the pandemic.
All right. Well, 10 to 15% is still pretty sizable, especially for larger organizations. And this will require some sort of investment, right? I know that you're seeing corporations and companies of all sizes invest in 5G. How has that shifted in the wake of COVID?
Well, the 10 to 15% increase, by the way, Shibani, is an increase over what we had prior to the pandemic. So if you think about the workforce distribution of those who work from home pre-pandemic being closer to the 30% range, I think we're going to get closer to like 40-45% post-pandemic. So it is, as you mentioned, really sizable and something that organizations have to really plan for. So what we've really seen, in light of this trend, is many business leaders have to find ways to speed up their digital transformation. I don't think that anybody was ignoring the fact that we are moving towards digitalization, at a very fast pace, even prior to the pandemic. But the pandemic really brought light to the fact that how can we speed up that transformation? And many business leaders who maybe had it on their roadmap over the next 5 years, they saw that trend really accelerating, and they are trying to find new ways to accommodate their remote employees and making sure that they give them all the tools that they need to be just as productive, regardless of where they are and where they are working. Another element that also has brought to light with this new work shift is how should large companies consider their traditional real estate space that they have? With empty offices, people are going to get back to work, but are we all going to need the same amount of space as we had pre-pandemic? So I think it has brought up a lot of really interesting questions. We were talking with some of the largest commercial developers in the country just last week, and I think even those companies are taking a pause and thinking about how do we digitize our traditional corporate space, making sure that when employees do get back to work at scale, that we are making our offices smarter. The trend is really everything being connected, but having smart offices where our some of the applications that we use every day are much more automated when we are in an office environment. These are some of the really exciting trends that are being enabled by the power of 5G. Just to make it real and give you an example, I mean, how wonderful would it be if you walk into a conference room and you don't have to worry about finding the right dialing code and making sure that your presentation gets projected on the screen, and just by using artificial intelligence technology, face recognition, you walk into the conference room, it recognizes you as the host of the conference, and then that's where the magic happens. And these are some of the things that are really taking a new life of their own because of the intrinsic benefits of 5G.
Yeah, and these are things that we imagine well into the future that are going to be enabled because of 5G being implemented now, and also because of pandemic trends. Explain to us what the difference between 5G and 4G is, and how T-Mobile's network is supporting this next generation of wireless communications.
Let's start with the simple premise that 5G is going to bring us speeds of about 15 times greater than what we are experiencing today on 4G LTE. So what does that mean really, when it translates, what that benefit, when you translate it into experiences, it means that we can have near real-time responses. Think of applications such as real-time translations of what it does for the gaming community and game streamings, and where every millisecond really counts. These are some of the consumer applications. But if I start thinking about the enterprise space, the low latency, which is really the time between the data gets transmitted from point A to point B, with 5G and with this incredible low latency that 5G is going to bring, we are going to see number of use cases that we couldn't even imagine considering on 4G. As an example, all of the car manufacturers around the world are thinking and are building autonomous cars. I mean, they're at different stages of their development. And the technology that's going to really enable that, where we're going to be in a space where we're going to all feel comfortable and safe about sitting in a autonomous car, this is only becoming a reality because of 5G. There are also another whole set of adjacent technologies, such as artificial intelligence, augmented reality, virtual realities. These are emerging technologies that exist today, but they are really being turbocharged by 5G. Why? Because they are taking a new life of their own, and 5G, with the capacity, the intrinsic capacity, latency, and speed that it brings to the experiences, is going to enable these other enabling technologies. And you asked me about T-Mobile. We're very, very proud of our network. We have the broadest and deepest and largest 5G network in the country. It's not just limited to a few city centers. It's really blanketing the entire country. As a matter of fact, we are just celebrating the 1-year anniversary of our launch of our 5G network, which we announced in December of last year. And the response that we're getting from everyone is just tremendous. There is a real hunger, not only within consumers who want to have these new experiences that are being enabled by 5G, but also within the B2B and enterprise space where, the possibilities are truly endless in terms of what 5G is going to enable.
And I want to remind our audience members here that we want to hear from you, and I see questions coming in. So let's throw a couple of those in while we can. We have a question from Kate Lister. How can 5G and technology help companies keep their people connected to company cultures? Because we know that person-to-person connection has been compromised and has a huge impact in terms of company culture. Mishka, what would you say to that?
Well, I think where my mind goes immediately when I see that, you mentioned, I think you really nailed it on the head, Shibani. It's about the person-to-person interconnection and relationships that we build where we are in an office. So where we think about the environment that we are in, look at the adoption of video conferencing just over the last 9 months. I mean, prior to COVID, we would do conference calls. I mean, in the business space, our life was really centered around, being on conference calls. Now, I don't recall the last time I was on a conference call without video. So that video interaction is really something that the adoption of it is something that has been accelerated because of technology. How does 5G play a role in this? Is we have only started, scratching the surface of what video conferencing can do. There is so much more that can be done in that space. Think about, an artificial intelligent assistant, how cool would it be as you and I are talking, it's taking notes. And, if there are any action items that we would need to follow up, that, that AI brain is going to take all of those notes and then send it back to all the video conference participants. And you don't have to scramble looking for your notes in your inbox. These are the type of, new features through video conferencing that 5G is going to enable. And how it ties to culture is, the more connected you are on all levels, you have the videos and you're able to do your messaging and, all of your interactions within one application that's really, that has no limits when it comes to the capacity of it, because 5G is going to enable this tremendous capacity. I think that's going to really help companies keep their people connected, not only from an actual connectivity perspective, but really also on a personal level, making those relationships count.
Absolutely. And as you said earlier, 40 to 50% of people are going to, going to be working from home. That connection is incredibly important. We have great questions coming in. So I just want to fold in a few more here from Timothy Youngblood, who asks, when I think of the smart connected product ecosystem that 5G can enable, how does 5G improve the identity and security stack of SMB?
Okay, so the smart connected product is basically a connected solution, in plain, simple terms. We are in a world where everything is becoming connected. Like, this is a trend that started on 4G and it's being accelerated on 5G. There is the explosion of devices and data that 5G is supporting. So, we continue to see really a rise in the number and the types of products that are getting connected. And to the point that Timothy is raising, which is a great one, is there's an entire ecosystem of application providers. So these are basically your software developers, your hardware developers, your connectivity providers. There's a whole ecosystem of elements that need to go into building the solution. And when we talk to our enterprise customers who are thinking about that ecosystem, what they are really asking us to do is really to help them develop those solutions. They are looking for an advisor in that technology space and say, this is the outcome that I'm trying to connect to by connecting my product, no pun intended. So, as the experts in technology, how do you bring that ecosystem together? And here at T-Mobile, this is really one of the areas that we are intently focused on, making sure that we build that entire end-to-end solution for our enterprise customers so that they can spend time really worrying about the business outcomes that they want to deliver rather than having to put together the technology elements of their solution.
Absolutely. So people can focus on what they're best at, right? Another question from Timothy I want to pass along to you is, do you see visualization technology, i.e. AG, being the killer app on 5G platforms? What do you think about that?
I think that visualization technology is definitely one of the, one of the critical areas in terms of the types of applications that's going to be enabled because of the benefits of 5G. But there are, the way I would put this is 5G is going to take on a brand new meaning in terms of the elements that it will enable because of the applications that we are going to be able to develop because of 5G. I think, as I mentioned, we are just at the beginning of that journey. So 10 years ago, if you think about when we launched 4G as an industry, nobody could really imagine the types of application that would emerge. We didn't even know that there would be a category called ride sharing. Now Uber has become, a simple world as part of our daily vocabulary. So I think that's exactly where we are with 5G, except that it's going to be exponentially bigger than 4G in terms of all the things that we are going to observe and see and experience as a society. And certainly visualization technology is going to be one of the elements that's going to contribute to this unimaginable, experiences that 5G will drive.
Yes, they become verbs in and of themselves to Uber, and the next chapter remains to be written. I want to turn back to the way that we are evaluating the success or measuring the success of 5G. I know from a consumer perspective, and you did talk about the speed being one way. What are the other metrics and benefits of 5Gs that businesses will experience?
Well, let me just start by some basic statistics that the CTIA published. 5G will bring 3 million new jobs. In the next 4 years. It's going to spur new investments in the tunes of $275 billion. And it's going to collectively drive, economic growth of about, $500 billion over the next 4 to 5 years. So these are like absolutely astonishing statistics. But, if I think about the experience for, everyday users, so beyond the unbelievable economic growth that 5G will spur. If I think about what it's going to do for consumers and companies, so let's start with consumers. I think that we're going to start seeing an acceleration of the type of immersive experiences that, we have been talking about for the last couple of years, but they're going to start manifesting themselves. And those immersive experiences can be around, gaming. It could be around, attending sporting events remotely, attending concerts remotely. But this will happen. But one of the immediate manifestations and translation of 5G benefits for all of us as consumers is going to be around, fixed wireless access. Really 5G fixed wireless access giving us, a supplemental in some areas, but also in some rural parts of the country where many Americans don't have access to high-speed internet, fixed wireless 5G through the T-Mobile network, because we are really blanketing the country, is going to allow customers to have access to connectivity that's differentiated, and it's going to really make a difference in their daily life. So I think that's an immediate translation for consumers. In the enterprise space, in the B2B space, there are a number of verticals that, as I mentioned earlier, they are really accelerating their digitization. And digitization really means different things for different companies, depending on where they are, which industry they're in, and where they are in the maturity cycle of their digitization. one of the areas that we see definitely as being one of the early adopters of the technology is healthcare. I mean, with the pandemic, televisits now in the medical space have become a norm.
Routine, routine.
I mean, if you need to make a doctor's appointment, the first thing that they're going to ask you is like, hey, we are doing televisits. So, and that acceleration was really enabled through technology, but 5G is going to allow the medical community to start bringing in more sophisticated remote applications. So if you think about, if a patient has to go into a hospital system and do a CAT scan or any type of imagery, today, what happens is the hospital system or that medical office has to wait for after hours to be able to transmit all the imageries because it uses a tremendous amount of data. And think about the real-time benefit of 5G I was mentioning earlier. That imagery can be transmitted real-time to all the doctors that are taking care of that patient. It could be a surgeon, could be their internist, it could be another expert that needs to look at that data. So it's really accelerating the care of the patient, and if any action needs to be taken by the medical by the medical staff to take care of the patient. So there are tremendous numbers of applications that we see now really starting to manifest themselves. And those roadmaps are really astonishing when we think about how it's going to transform society across multiple industries.
Absolutely, and we're seeing that happen across many industries, Mishka. What considerations, because every single executive in this room is thinking about 5G, investigating the potential, considering the investment, what considerations from your perspective should businesses be factoring in as they are thinking about 5G?
That's a great question, Shibani. So when we think of 5G, we really think about 5G in the way it's going to empower businesses to create new ways of running their operations, new ways of introducing innovation in the way they serve their own customers, new ways in the way they interact within their own ecosystem. So our advice to all the customers that we talk to is that come to us with your pain points and let us, as T-Mobile for Business, with the experts that we have that have been thinking about what 5G can do, let us really help design solutions that will help address your pain points and deliver the business outcomes that you are looking for. There is a whole host of solutions that we have access to. As this new 5G era is taking a life of its own, and if I think of the private networks type of solutions that many enterprises are now asking for, if I think about the connected solutions that they're trying to enable using IoT technology, if I think about mobile edge computing applications that many enterprises are trying to accelerate, the deployment of. These are all the things that we are thinking about, and we are putting those solutions together. So let us be your advisors and guide you in that journey, so that you can really focus on what matters, which is the core of your business, and we can help you with the technology solution.
As we get to the end of our time here, Mishka, how are organizations thinking about 5G, just not from the worker's perspective, but with innovation? In regards to innovation, creativity, you talked about healthcare and how they will innovate with their services. What else can you tell us in terms of that and what you're seeing with your customers?
Well, there are a variety of use cases depending on what industry we're talking about. I mentioned healthcare earlier, so I'm just going to try to move to a different one. One that would apply to pretty much everybody is that's where we started our conversation, is about the way we work. The way we work, and that remote collaboration with having a distributed workforce that's anywhere throughout the globe, and not being physically present in the same office. We talked about the artificial intelligence piece and how it can really transform the experiences when we are on video conference call. But think about holographic representation of participants in a video conference, and this is something that's happening now that we are seeing many companies are starting to build those applications, and it will really limit the way we used to travel for business, where we can actually have a holographic representation in a conference room while we might be thousands of miles away. And while this was maybe perhaps viewed as science fiction just only a couple of years ago, I think that we are much, much closer to it now.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Stuff of the future is here today, and that's what we're seeing all across the board, and 5G is a big part in enabling that story. Mishka, thank you so much for your great insights, great conversation today. Thank you to everyone who joined us today. To learn more about how 5G will impact your organization, be sure to visit the T-Mobile for Business Expo room or click the link in the chat and take the Workforce Mobility Assessment. The event will continue now with CNBC's John Ford in an innovation spotlight. To get there, just simply click on the stage tab to join. I'm Shibani Joshi. Thank you to everyone for being with us today. Have a great day.
Thank you so much for having me. Great to see you, Shibani.